Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Strategic Frontlines, where we try to discuss contemporary issues with our experts. Today, we have with us four eminent speakers. To start with, we have Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, PVSM, AVSM, SM retired, who was the former DG Military Operations, and he was also the previous director of St. Joe's. We have with us Vice Admiral Anil Kumar Chawla, PVSM, AVSM, NMPSM, and he's also a PhD. He was the Flag Officer Commanding in Chief, Southern Naval Command, and he is also an author of the book Maritime Power in China's Grand Strategy. He's a China expert, actually. We have with us Air Marshal Rajeev Sachdeva, AVSM, and he's also PhD. He was the Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff and served as Commandant of the College of Defense Management. We will be having Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, PVSM, AVSM retired. He's the Director General of Clause, and he will be joining us later on. So he has already joined us. Welcome. I welcome all of you to our podcast. And as we know that Operation Sindoor is going on and a lot of people are talking about it, but we have taken a little bit different stance. We want to have the prognosis of it as to what will be the future of peace, whether it will be stable, durable, or it will be doomed. So may I now invite General Singh to please take the Jalsing, you need to unmute. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Roshan, and a very warm welcome to Jan Bhatia, Air Marshal Sachdeva, and Admiral Chawla for joining us and sparing us their valuable time. As Dr. Roshan has already highlighted, we are looking at the future in the sense that the government has announced, including the PM has announced, that the Op Sindoor is actually going on. It has only been temporarily paused the military activities. And given the fact that there are certain activities already carrying on, like on the first day there was a violation of ceasefire. Then on the second day we found drone activity both over Jammu and then over Rajasthan. And yesterday we had a terror incident in the valley where three terrorists were killed, including supposedly the primary person who was involved in the Pahalgam incident. And also today there was some kind of attack on a police station. So these activities are going on despite the cessation of military activities on land, air, and sea. So what we thought was, let us see how the events are going to pan out in future, and is this temporary peace going to last in the light of the fact that there are other external elements also which are not really going the India way. For example, the statements which are coming from the US or US president especially have been quite unsettling as far as India-US relations are concerned. The Chinese are keeping a deaf, dumb silence. Turkey has emerged as one of the major players and supporters of Pakistan. Azerbaijan, of course, has also been supporting, but more importantly, it is the Turkey and Chinese whose support is actually leading to the current situation where the international opinion, it seems, because US is doing that, has equated India and Pakistan on the same level. So there is some concern for India, and although India has been holding its ground, for how long are we going to do that? Including the Indus Water Treaty is now, Pakistan has agreed to talk, etc. So how are we going to see both events at the international level and internally, and what we need to do internally as far as our defense forces are concerned? These are issues which we need to discuss. So I'll I'll open the talk with General Bhatia. Sir, maybe have your views on any of the issues which I have highlighted, depending on what you seem to be the most primary concern at this stage, as far as India-Pakistan relations are concerned. And why only India-Pakistan, including you can throw light on the neighborhood as well, because even the neighborhood is getting little uh, I would say, unfriendly, if I were to use the word in real terms. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, DG, Laws General Dushyant. Thank you, Dr. Roshan. Please, Jai Hind to everyone. No, this is a very interesting conversation we would have because we always looked at Operation Sindoor, the modus operandi, the strategic, operational and tactical aspects of it. But now the prognosis, it's very important. I think Operation Sindoor was exceedingly well planned and executed till now. It is on a strategic pause. It continues, and the strategic pause, as I see it, has been asked for by Pakistan on the DGMO hotline, and India has agreed to it. And the reason is very simple: that the political end objective of Operation Sindoor was to raise the cost and consequences of Pakistan's terror activities and attack, basically post Pahalgam. And I do feel that till now, Operation Sindoor has achieved the political end state, and the military has shown its capability. There is synergy between the political military high directions. Totally political military will has been demonstrated, and the world has looked at it. So that is one aspect of it. So coming to the prognosis, uh, if we feel that Operation Sindoor would, lead to end of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, I don't think so. Terrorism levels, violence levels are already low out there, and they may be lower because we raised the cost and consequences of Pakistan. If you look at the historical aspect of it, since December of 1990, when the proxy war of Pakistan manifested itself in Jammu and Kashmir, till 2016, Pakistan, with great impunity, has been carrying out terror attacks not only in Jammu and Kashmir but all across the country, whether it's Mumbai bomb blasts, train blasts, 2611, Delhi Parliament attack, Red Fort, Diwali bombings, Bangalore, Coimbatore, Ahmedabad, Calcutta, all over. So, what happened? And this is all under the nuclear sort of a rhetoric, nuclear umbrella. It always said, we're a nuclear nation. Even a small beheading at the line of control, not small, beheading on the line of control, you say you got to pay for it. Please remember that we're a nuclear nation. So that sort of a thing, rhetoric continued. So what changed? I think what changed was Uri 2016. Why I'm doing a historical person? Because it's important for the prognosis. In 2016, after the Uri surgical strikes, things changed. Thereafter, 2019, the air precision strikes in Jabba Top. I don't call it Balapur, Jabba Top. And now, after 6 years down the line, 2019 to 2025, we have Pahalgam and we have Pakistan. So what has happened is, after 26 September 2016, after the Uri surgical strikes, we have not seen any terror activities sponsored, perpetrated, supported Pakistan outside of JNK. So that is one takeaway, right? So it has made a difference. And now, when we say that the nuclear umbrella, the nuclear rhetoric, the nuclear blackmail is not a factor anymore for India to respond to a terror strike perpetrated and sponsored by Pakistan anywhere. So that is the prognosis which I feel is that terror activities by Pakistan will be very measured and they'll keep it at the low end of the radar. It's not going to go away. And I do feel that peace has prevailed in Jammu and Kashmir. Whereas strategic aspects are concerned, yes, China will support, but China will support Pakistan to an extent. Turkey will support Pakistan, that's okay. Today, India is a risen, responsible, resurgent nation. We are a regional leader, we are a global power. And that is where we think we have pitched ourselves. And if you look at the neighborhood, yes, I do see China, Pakistan, Bangladesh axis emerging. I see that. We have problems in our region, but we also all have to understand that we are a big nation and we can absorb this. The only thing is that we got to be prepared at all elements of national power have to synergize, and our threats in the security domain are defined and definite. If you're looking at Viksit Bharat, we should also be simultaneously looking at Surakshit Bharat. Without a Surakshit Bharat, you cannot have Viksit Bharat, and without Viksit Bharat, you cannot have Surakshit Bharat. So these are two ends of the thing, and for that, armed forces need to prepare for war. Armed forces are not meant to fight wars; they're meant to prevent wars, ensure peace, because it is long-term peace, stability, development. So we need to purchase peace through preparedness. How do we do that is the challenge because they're competing right at national level. with the less than 2% of the GDP for defense allocation. Uh, we need to be very certain that we need more of it, and not only we need the defense allocation more, defense budget more, we need to ensure that it's optimally utilized. So that is the progress I see. If you're militarily strong, you'll ensure peace, you'll ensure stability, and you ensure economic development. As a nation, we ensure multipolarity. We have our power. We have got our well-wishers. Uh, we have our supporters, and we have detractors also. So that is geopolitics at the highest levels. Everyone says something, but every nation in the end will protect and project its own national interests, and we should continue to protect and project our national interests, especially with Pakistan as a mischievous nation going into proxy war. We need to make sure that the costs for Pakistan are always raised high and pay for any terror attack into our territory. I'll end over there.
Uh, uh, Thank you, sir. I think you made 2 points that probably the attacks in the future are going to be more nuanced. I mean, at a level where the provocation is not enough for us to take any strong measure. And the second thing is about preparedness. I think we need to be looking at that point very seriously, especially because of the fact that now there seems to be a seamless trend from Bangladesh to Pakistan with China interposed in between. So I think we will have to be taking a very serious look at our defense preparedness in the future. Otherwise, we cannot deal with a higher level of escalation as and when it comes up in the future, because the next round is going to be more intense, I suppose, and more furious. So I'll now come on to Admiral Chawla. Admiral Chawla, I wanted to ask you two specific questions. The first one was that, with the US taking a kind of a position where they are equating India, where they are equating India and Pakistan on a similar wicket. In fact, I would say initially the entire narrative was as though it is going pro Pakistan. How do you see Quad emerging in the future? I mean, is the Quad going to remain in the same kind of a level of cooperation, or the Quad is going to get affected? That is one point. And the second point is, in the next round, if it happens, which in my opinion, I think it's not very far away, given the fact the way Pakistan is known to behave in the past. Uh, how do you see a tri-service response in which possibly the Navy also may have to now become more and more involved? Of course, they're already involved in Balakot. They were involved in the current operations also in a big way. But I suppose it might increase in intensity because we have declared that acts of war, terror is an act of war. So if it is an act of war, then the entire Pakistan military is a target as far as we are concerned if there is a terror act. So could you throw light on these two issues and then we'll move forward to Air Master Sachdeva.
Most certainly.
Over to you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you for having me on the show. Firstly, I just like to talk about this, the so-called American intervention. I think we are making too much of it. That's my personal view. We should not really, focus so much and give it so much of oxygen, because President Trump is his own personality, and it's not just this issue. He has his views on many other things as well. I think there is really no equivalence today between India and Pakistan. It is an equivalence because it was a bilateral conflict that happened. So that equivalence is there, that yes, there was something that happened between India and Pakistan. But in any other sense, I think in reality, in the real time world, there is really no equivalence. And there has been no equivalence since the Kargil conflict, really. And this equivalence, or so-called equivalence, is over a quarter of a century old. In any metrics that you take it, there is really no equivalence, and the world treats it in that manner. So Pakistan virtually is a pariah state with very few backers, who are there for their own vested interests, and they will always be there. So I think the international system is the real world which we need to accept, and not get too bothered about statements made by particular people, because very often they are made for domestic constituencies, for many other things, and all countries do that. Now, as far as the Quad is concerned, you mentioned about the role of Quad. Now, the government of India has been very clear in stating that it's not a military alliance or a military gathering or etc., but it started off as a multilateral naval exercise, and it continues to be the most advanced multilateral naval exercise that we conduct even today, with the participation of nuclear powered submarines, aircraft carriers, cross deck operations, exchange of personnel, exchange of communication and EW policies, etc. So it's a very intense exercise, and it is very beneficial to all the participants because each one brings their own strength in the maritime sphere to this, which then adds to the operational efficiency of individual navies as well. The IPMDA, the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness construct, is the clearest military sign of this alliance, and not alliance of this grouping. It's not an alliance, and so. What role does it play in a future conflict? I think it just plays in preparing, because India is an autonomous country. We are not into military alliances, but it does play a huge role in strengthening us operationally, in giving us vital information, which is critical in any form of warfare, whether in land or on air, and particularly at sea. The maritime domain awareness. It also opens up supply lines, with the mutual logistic support arrangements that have been made of critical spares and weapon systems, should there be a requirement to get them. So that is as far as Quad is concerned. And I think this will continue to grow in strength, particularly with the current and in the future the tussle that's going on for global supremacy as a number one power between US and China, with China really trying hard to displace the US over the next couple of decades. The second part that you mentioned, as far as the future response is concerned, look, the role of navies is very clear. So without going into any specific tactical details or operational details,
Obviously,
yeah, the role of
obviously.
navies is very clear. It is firstly, of course, to attack the enemy's forces, and frankly, Pakistan does not have that many forces to attack, so there are not that many targets. And the second and more important, particularly in long war, is to shut down the lines of supply. So as we are aware, Pakistan, with various reports, you can take, between 7 to 12 or 13 days of endurance for a full scale war. And as we saw with the current operation, the Indian Air Force operations actually shut down the Pakistani Air Force entirely, for 2 days, which is an important lifeline. Even if you have to get in emergency supplies, and nothing much that can come by road, even over the Karakoram highway. So if the sea lines of communication are shut, as they were in the 1971 war, it would mean that the fuel reserves are degraded and the ammunition reserves are degraded in a high intensity war. You can see which way the war will point to, because we forget that op logistics is the underbelly of any warfare. If you don't have the ammunition and the fuel to carry on fighting, it will degrade. The capability will degrade very fast. So I think these are the traditional roles of a navies which one expects to come in play in any future conflict. The only issue with the involvement of navies is that they operate in the international environment. So, when you are in an international environment, look at any port, for example, there'll be ships from over a dozen countries in the port, and so there is a legal requirement before any warfare starts. If Because India is a legal, law-abiding country, it follows international norms and rules, and so any attack from the sea is de facto a declaration of war. So I think that is one of the considerations that the government had in mind. That when you get into this environment and you escalate, so this is I would, in short, say this is another step in escalation that is in reserve. It is a threat in being that is kept in reserve to say, look, if this happens, it starts off with the land actions, then it escalates to the aerial battle, and because the aerial battle today, airplanes do not really cross national boundaries, any longer. Very rarely, even in the Ukraine war, you've seen that happening because of the strong air defenses that are there. So I think this factor will come into play, and I think Pakistan realizes it. If the water from the north is shut and the water from the south is also shut, you can imagine what happens to the patient. when everything gets blocked. So I think I'll end it with that.
Yeah, basically, why I posed this question to you, the second one, was that
General Singh, your sound is not coming.
I said why I have posed this question, the second question to you was from the fact that, along the land borders, there is a certain amount of asymmetry in favor of Pakistan as far as terrorist hybrid activities are concerned, right? And also information related to the hybrid actors. I'm talking of terrorists and their, proxies who operate in our side of the territory as also in their side of the territory. Whereas there is a huge asymmetry in the on the naval side if you compare between India and Pakistan. As far as India is concerned, India is far uh, greater power as compared to the Pakistanis who are more into a defensive nature. So my only thing was that if we declare something as an act of war, then possibly next time round, I would see a whole lot of naval activities in some form of retaliation or retribution. So that was my view. So possibly you referred to it in an oblique manner. So we will reserve certain questions for the second round. I'll go to the next guest of ours, which is Air Marshal Sachdeva. Air Marshal Sachdeva, I have two very basic questions to you. One, congratulations for an excellent show by the Air Force as far as Operation Sindoor was concerned. But uh, Operation Sindoor uh, is not stopped as yet. It is still in progress. How do you see the Air Force now trying to reorganize, restructure its forces based on the important lessons which might have been learned during Operation Sindoor. Because you see, any operation is not with its pluses and minuses. We may have won a decisive victory with a decisive blow, but do you feel that we have to go far beyond this level of preparation to ensure that we are a force to reckon with, both with China as well as with the new actors now who are coming up on the domain, like Yunus announcing that we should have a separate federation of northeastern states and Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. I mean, hats off to this guy. I mean, without any muscle power, he's trying to give a statement whereby implying that he's trying to split the country virtually, with Northeast is some kind of a separate nation altogether. So just let us know, how do you see Air Force now going from here in terms of preparedness, especially given the fact that few months back the Air Chief had also given some statements related to its preparedness, and also the balance between the various forces, aircraft, manned systems, etc. Over to you.
General Singh,
Okay,
Air
sorry,
Marshal
sorry, sorry.
Sachdeva, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you need.
yeah. Thanks a lot, Dushyant, for getting me in. After listening to the CDS and the three chiefs, what we've understood is that this time there was a massive synergy between the three forces, and there was jointness. Jointness has always been there, but this time we moved a ladder up from jointness into integration. Like I've always been saying that the Sincan has got three squadrons under him: a Dornier squadron with the Coast Guard, Dornier squadron with the Navy, and the Dornier squadron with the Air Force. But even the spare parts moving between the three under the same Sincan was very difficult. That's where the integration happened this time, what we came to know. There was joint planning, joint execution, and an integrated BDA which was happening from the all forces. It appeared as if a whole of nation approach. What I found the Air Force was following, first of all, it was nothing to do with a war scenario which we went in. They created Pahalgam, we went and did a strike on we punished them. Now they came in the second night on the 8th. We went in for the first step, which my Air Force doctrine, which is available on the net, says SEAT. The first thing I'm supposed to do is suppress the enemy's air defense. That is what we went in for. And it was I'm sure the way we knocked off their radars must have shocked them, because they're supposed to be better in air defense investment than what we have done, but we turned out to be better. Then the second step, which my doctrine says, is the airfield denial. And that's exactly what we did on the second day of the Air Force going in, that we took off all their airfields. But mind you, in this, neither did we cross the border, nor did they cross the border. That means we have suddenly got the capability, which we have built up in the last so many years, for a deep strike. It can only happen going deep into the enemy territory and striking, provided the political leadership says so. So that's what the Air Force has done. But now, when the pause button has come, which your question was, I'm sure we are doing a quick SWOT analysis of what has happened in these 2 days. What was our weakness? How are we going to cap that weakness? Maybe there are new doctrinal changes will be brought in, because Balakot, which happened, I'm sure the Air Force is very clear that maybe another Balakot cannot happen the way it happened that day, because obviously the surprises leaked out. Similarly, what we've done this time, we might have to go in for something better with more better results, because they are also going to do their own SWOT analysis and find out where all they were weak. Maybe the list will be much longer than our list, but they will definitely work towards it. Till the time they haven't worked on their weaknesses and pulled out the opportunities with Turkey and China and other countries, they are not going to strike back. But they will definitely strike back, because an injured beast will definitely come back once he's gained some strength. Now, our capability, like what we were told, is now, which we have displayed, length and breadth of Pakistan. And if that is what it is, we have to maintain it despite him overcoming his weaknesses. I think this is what the Air Force will have to work on in the coming maybe couple of years by the time they bounce back. Because if the army was there with during the funeral, we all saw a wreath which was going with the COS, coffin with the COS wreath on it. One more wreath on top of it was President. Can you imagine? It was at that level. We all missed out the second wreath which said President. Yes, it was coming the other way around. But President and COS, both the wreaths were on the same body, on the same coffin. So that's the kind. They will join up, they will regroup, and they will come back. And we should not only do SWOT analysis, but also look ahead as to what they're going to come up with in the next 2 years.
Well, Sachdeva, there was one specific issue which I thought you could throw some more light on, and that is, do you see some kind of a rebalancing between our manned and unmanned systems, and also our UAS and counter UAS capabilities? Because those things have come out in a very clear manner as to their primacy, whether it is the air defense battle or whether it is going to be the battle on the land in the offensive, if it has to go in the future. Because I keep on harping on the fact that if the entire Pakistan is going to be the target in the next round, then things might just be much more than what we have seen this time around. So, anything on that? Are you looking at it? I mean, you were there. I mean, of course, you are not there in the serving hierarchy now, but if you were there, would you like to do something like that?
That's what I said. Once we do a SWOT analysis and find out our weaknesses and the strengths, I think the whole world, the present wars which are happening, is displaying this, that the unmanned is taking the precedence. It is not going to replace the manned in any case, but it is going to take the precedence, maybe take out those targets like we did this time, which will ease off the manned strike to come in. So that particular package, the Air Force will have to work out, and maybe they're already at it. That is how we were going. We did not cross the border. We sent our munitions which were far-reaching without actually exposing our assets into the enemy fire line. So yes, unmanned will be a combination with the manned, and how it's going to happen is the new doctrine which will be worked out by them.
Okay, before we go in for the question answers, I would like to ask the last question, which will be a common question to all of you, and that is, are we going to see a new normal in our military activities? The Prime Minister has already defined a new normal as far as the national level, national strategic level is concerned. Will there be a new normal at the national military strategic level? And what would be the broad contours of that? Because of the redefining of our overall approach to the doctrine. Sir, over to you, Jan Bhatia, and then Admiral Chawla, and thereafter Marshal Sachdeva. So over to you, sir, Jan Bhatia.
Thank you. I think the political direction is very clear that there's a new normal. And if you look at the political part of it, any terror attack now emanating, which is crossing the red line, the public sentiment will have to be assuaged. There is no choice. There's no choice in this. And the armed forces will be required, and they'll be, I'm sure, doing it. They will be looking at options. If you look at the options, like if 2016, 1925, you see different options being worked out. So these responses, short of war, would be worked out, and escalation ladder would be worked out, and these options would be there. I don't want to go into the details, but this is what the military is supposed to do. And like you rightly said, unmanned. Look at what we have achieved till now is Pakistan's low cost, high effect war, proxy war, has now become a high cost, low effect war. Even in Kashmir, the violence levels are low. There was normalcy which has prevailed. Belgaum, of course, was a setback, and tourism was picking up. Economic development has picked up. The education institution did not close. The stone pelting had stopped. The streets were free. So there were things which are improving. And Pakistan can't let go of Kashmir. So this is not, it's going to happen again. And when it happens again, we'll again have to give a measured, proportionate response, maybe lead to escalation next time, because Pakistan also will be prepared for it. So I do feel that we will need to invest in capabilities, and you can't repeat the same thing over and over again. You have to find new means, new operations, new plans, variations of the old plans, possibly.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
there's a new normal. There's no going back. There's no going back.
we can't fight the next war with the current strategy or design. We'll have to look for one last question before I go to Admiral Chawla, is that how long do you think that this secession is likely to stay? I mean, it's a wild guess. Delphi technique. You're an expert, so I'm using the and you're a CDM graduate, so and plus you've been a DGMO, so that is a one hell of a lot of experience of being a DGMO for a and during your time, mind you, the ceasefire was actually, I suppose, no, yeah,
Yeah,
it was around your time. It was around your time. So how do you see this thing now lasting? How long? Your wild guess for me. I know it's a very difficult question.
so I think this will go in phases. It has to happen that way.
Okay.
Fortunately for us, today Pakistan is militarily weak, economically weak, politically weak. Fortunately for us, at this point of time, they're getting loans, fine, but they're still economically weak. Militarily, they're overstretched. They have put in formations, they deployed formations on their west. They'll have to pull them back. So I feel this should continue for some time, and we need to continuously raise the cost of Pakistan. That what I was trying to say is that if you don't raise the cost of Pakistan, and this is the right opportunity to make sure that Pakistan behaves, but in the long term, the challenge will always remain how to change the behavior of Pakistan, which is a mid to long term thing. And I think water is a very major thing. 95% of the water flows
Yeah.
from India. And if you close the water to the north and close the water to the south, and Pakistan anyway is landlocked, they'll only have the Karakoram highway to escape or come in, because Afghanistan, Iran, India on the other side. Pakistan's got northeast.
Correct.
We should exploit that diplomatically, militarily, economically. And the synergy is required in all three, but at the cost of reputation. Please invest in preparedness. If you do not invest in preparedness, I think we will be found.
Admiral Chawla, new norms. What will be the new normal as far as military is concerned, and how long do you see this particular thaw lasting?
If you start with the second part, is this current thaw, how long will it last? I think it will
Mhm.
last, as long as Pakistan wants it to last, because the fact of the matter is, this is a revisionist state. And
Yes.
the second fact of the matter is that the Pakistani army's rationale for existence and for control of Pakistan as a country is based on its keeping the Kashmir issue alive, and then raising the bogey of the Indian threat. So I don't see things changing much in Pakistan. The Pakistani army is very well entrenched. They've got a proxy government. It's as General Bhatia mentioned, it was actually the PTI that was winning the majority when the vote counting was stopped, and lo and behold, 24 hours later, the results, voting machines gave a different result, and so somebody else comes into power, and while I can't quote something specific, but the fact is this was very well known that this is the way it's going to happen. The script is going to go. So the first is that this will continue as long as the Pakistani army is in control of the country. I think if a truly democratic, dispensation comes into power, and Imran Khan was moving towards that direction, then things will change, not entirely but significantly. Now, as far as the new normal is concerned for the Indian armed forces, I think it implies uh, two specific things. One is that we cannot really have any dumb weapons any longer. The weapons have to be smart. They have to be long range, and I think all three services have invested in this over the last over 2 decades. It is coming into operation right now. We saw a lot of it, particularly with the Air Force strikes in Operation Sindoor. But I think this is something that needs to be taken forward. Long range, precise, pinpoint, accurate weapons, preferably at hypersonic speeds. That is something that needs to come in as early as possible. And there are many issues, but the second one I'd like to point out is battlefield transparency. I think that is something today that is easily done. It's a factor that is being provided by China to Pakistan for many years, and this was evident in this particular short conflict also. And I think India needs to have its own indigenous. So I think satellite surveillance systems are something that are critical today and cannot brook any further delay. And I think these two areas particularly should be heavily invested in, so that in any future conflict, the transparency is such that both the target and the attacking system know exactly where it is heading. And it is possible in today's world with the kind of technology that is there, and certainly possible to do it indigenously in India.
Thank you, Admiral Chawla. I think battlefield transparency is one area where I think there's a drastic need to work by all the three services and also the nation as such. And we are all aware as to what is our military capability in this particular area. And we had to do some kind of an ad hoc arrangements to ensure that we did have a certain amount of capability enhancement in the short time which we got. Marshal Sachdeva, you can also make a wild guess as to how long this thaw is likely to remain, and what are likely new normals in terms of responses in the future.
First of all, the new norm, which is going to be for the services, is that whenever we had prepared a plan or actually looking for the leadership to give us a yes or go ahead, it had a long lead time. Today, that yes is available right away. As soon as you give a plan, the yes is available. So we do not have time to waste thereafter, because the yes is available, and now that's going to be the new norm. That is going to be quick and fast decision which is going to come for whatever we throw up to the leadership. This is the first thing. Second, like I said, the list of weaknesses which while doing the SWOT analysis on the other side will be much longer. Once they have done those, plugged those weaknesses and build up the capabilities, that's when they're going to strike back, because they know that the new norm is any act of terror will be taken as act of war. So that means we release the pause button wherever we've left. We're not going to go back to talking tables and wasting 15 days and so on. It's going to be release button and going. So their weakness list once they've done up. And in future, I think we should actually give him a punishment which is very expensive to come back. Because he doesn't have money to come back. He's a poor nation. So we must destroy something so big that it takes a lot of money for him to come back. If these three things is what is going to make him come back in a delayed form, not immediately, because we just have to release the pause button and go in. So that's what is my say.
I think a very important point. We are going to get a political signal without delay, and if the political signal is going to be without delay, it becomes the onus of the armed forces to respond without delay, and that would imply that we need to have a very serious look at our operating mechanism in the future for any conflict like this. Last word from you, Dr. Roshan. Nuclear bluff. The Prime Minister called this very promptly in the speech which he gave at Air Base in Nadampur, and also subsequently in other places where he spoke about it. So, do you really think the nuclear bluff has been called, or it is still going to remain a very important factor in our response mechanism?
I think the nuclear bluff has clearly been debunked, because the fact that we have the kinetic space to go inside the Pakistani territory and the damage, what kind of damage we have done, it clearly shows that the nuclear bluff and the nuclear saber rattling of Pakistan has totally been debunked. So my take is that will not stop us from taking the next step.
Okay, so I think we've come to the end of our discussion, and just to end, okay, sir, over to you, sir. You want to make a point, so go ahead.
Just 30 seconds. You know what?
Yes, sir.
Sachdeva said a very, very interesting one. Next time when
Yeah.
the go comes, the yes comes, like you rightly said, there will be, the armed force will be required to operate without any strategic, operational, or tactical surprise. So the surprise
That's
part, which is the principle of war, was neither there this time and will not be the next time. So that is
okay.
something we'll have to factor in, that there will be no surprise at the strategic level, at the operation level, and even at the tactical.
So, what you imply is that we must have a long list of options, and depending on the situation at that point in time, we excise the option which is likely to give us the maximum surprise. So I suppose that would be a normal corollary to the planning and planning our operations in the future, which requires a greater amount of jointness and integration. So, with that, we will close our discussion, but we have a lot of questions. We had almost 400 people watching this particular thing, because this particular broadcast was also going on Strive, on Gunner Shot. So we have a number of Gunner Shot audience with us, and I would like to request the Gunner Shot audience that Clause and Gunner Shot are the same thing. So therefore, if you like them, like us also, we will give you some very serious discussions, and not run-of-the-mill discussion will go on various channels. These are places where you'll find people discussing matters in a very, very pragmatic manner. There are some questions. There is one start question from a very short person, and he's also contributed to Gunner Shot. So I will just see where he is. Mm, I Yeah. How This is the question which he has got. He is Brahmanand Tale. Thank you very much on behalf of Jan Shankar, because Jan Shankar couldn't attend this particular discussion. He is away in some place because of personal reasons. How do you look at behavior of the USA towards India recently? Trump said to stop the production of iPhone in India. Admiral Chawla, you had referred to this particular issue because I had asked you to comment upon it. So, would you like to add anything more than what you have already said? Because this question in some form has been answered by you. But specific to this particular
I
move
think
which is
this is
going.
I think if you look at it, it is the political philosophy and the manifesto of President Trump that is
Yeah.
Make in USA. And I think this is something that is being followed by all countries. We are emphasizing Make in India. I think some other microphone is on. So if you look at the problem that the US is facing, is that's a huge deficit in its trade, particularly with China and or with several other countries, including India. And the reason is the manufacturing has gone out of the country, and the reason for that is that other countries can make it cheaper. And so he's trying his best to get manufacturing back, as he should, as any leader would, to try and get the manufacturing and the jobs back to his country. The challenge is, of course, for America to make it in this at the same cost that others do, which is really not possible. So to the critics of President Trump within the USA are saying that essentially that the US should occupy the high-tech space and not really go into the manufacturing field where it is at a disadvantage. But I tend to agree to some extent, to a large extent, with President Trump in the sense that strategic sectors like, for example, shipbuilding, where the US today has less than 0.1% of the market share, and where China has 83% of the orders in the world today, is actually a defense liability. It's a huge defense liability for the United States that it doesn't have this capability. So I think we need not take it personally that iPhones will still be made in India. In fact, another report says that Apple will continue making them here because essentially, it is more profitable to make them here. And it will probably do some more high-tech research, or should do that, to my mind, in the United States. So these are political statements, and I think we should not be really swayed by the statement of the day, but we should look at the underlying basis for what is happening today, and then decide. So I think I would not give too much credence to that.
You're right. It is a trade related move which he's trying to do, essentially because he has struck a deal with China. I think that has been one of the factors, I suppose, where he's again trying to prove to China that he's looking at something to get back to the previous trade arrangements, previous trade volumes which they were having with China. In fact, the US-China trade had really come down. So we will take two more questions because of lack of time. One question has been asked from by. There are a lot of questions on the Air Force. I will not go into it because most of these have been answered in various podcasts, etc. There is one question which is very specific to a particular happening, and that I will request Air Marshal Sachdeva to answer. Is that people are asking how long will it take Tejas to finally materialize? And they're talking about the advanced version. When will it materialize? So they were asking for a timeline. So if you have any idea, you can answer. Otherwise, it's not necessary that you should.
Yeah. I think the timeline for the Tejas will come out from the HAL. That will be more appropriate because they are the ones who are actually dealing with it, and Air Force is after them to give it early. But that's not related to this particular Operation Sindoor. So we leave it at that.
Similarly, question like this, how capable is our BVR ammunition? It has been already proved, in the of Sindoor. So how capable it is? I think it is very capable. There was a related question where it was saying that the China wanted to test its own air defense capabilities, so they had pumped in their weapons and equipment. So what do you have to say on that? I have to only say that the results are in front of you with all the satellite imageries and the things which are being posted on the media. They are true. Whatever you are saying of PL-15's state, they are all true. I'll ask the last question, which I think General Bhatia can answer, because I must give chance to everyone. In connection with the previous question, how does the enemy and their backers even know that military we have readily available surge capacity? Now, his previous question, I have to look at it. Eh, yeah, his question is first question is, sir, if the enemy and their backers choose to continue with their present action, then we may actively consider taking down their ISR space asset. Then won't the enemy be running blind? Now, uh, uh, General Bhatia sir, you can explain to him that how difficult or how easy it is to do all these things.
No, there's a difference between the capability and the ability. We may have the capability, but the ability would be dictated by numerous factors. And it may not be easy to just take down the ISR space assets because though we'll have to now prepare in the multi-domain, that is the land, air, sea, space, cyber, subsurface, surface. So, this has to be done. But these capabilities of taking down ISR and the space assets will bring it in a different domain altogether. And we need to understand that this is not Pakistan. ISR doesn't have space assets. It is outsourced to someone else. And you really do not want to face two of your adversaries at the same time. It is better to face one at a time and not two. So that is where I leave it out there. We may have the capability. Do we have the ability? I'm not too sure.
General Singh, you're muted.
Sorry. I said we are totally out of time, and we will stop asking, stop any more question answers, because of the fact that there are over, I think over 60 odd questions which are there in the chat box, and we will take the whole day, whole night to answer them. Suffice it to say that you can actually, these are all personalities who are available on the net. And if you have any specific questions, please email to them or email to Claude. We will answer it for you all. And with the final request that also do like and subscribe to Claude, because Claude is something which is going to give you very serious discussions, and which will be of great value to you. Thank you very much to all our guests. It was very nice of you all to have spared your time. Thanks. With the final motivational announcement which I want to make is that Washington Post have and NYT both have said that Operation Sindoor was the most significant attack in decades. It also debunks the American attacks on the Afghanistan or the Iraq. So you can imagine the kind of success which India has achieved, and that should be a pat on the back for all the three services and the people of India. Thank you very much to all of you, sir, and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.